All right, but our compounds don't always come in pure substances. Sometimes they come in solutions. And when we have stuff in solutions, in order to get to our moles of A, we need to use the molarity of the compound. So again, looking at your chart here, we could go, for example, volume of solution A, use the molarity to get to moles of A, go over to moles of B, and then maybe finally the volume of solution B. Again, we've learned how to do all of this. The only thing that we've really added here is the moles of A to moles of B, which is relatively easy. So if you're keeping along, this shouldn't be too bad. If this is very difficult and confusing for you, this is really your warning sign that you need to, kick it in gear and catch up. So we have two HCl's reacting with a calcium hydroxide to form 2 molecules of water or 2 moles of water, interchangeable, and some calcium chloride. And our question asks us how many ml of 2.50 or 2.5 molar HCl is needed to neutralize 58 ml of 1.0 molar calcium hydroxide. All right, you'll notice that this is a word problem. Word problems are often tricky for students because it can be difficult to organize your thoughts. The first thing, of course, you need to do is practice, right? That's really the only thing that's going to be able to alleviate this. But just some other ways, other strategies to organize your things. The first thing that you might want to think about is what the question is asking for. What do you want at the end? How do you know when you're going to be done? Well, if we read our question, it says, how many milliliters of this HCl do we need? How many milliliters of this HCl? So at the end, I should get a unit that is milliliters of HCl because that's what the question is asking for. That's what I want, and I'm going to keep converting until I get ml of HCl. Next up is I notice I have a lot of numbers here, right? I have a lot of numbers. I need to start, well, I don't need to, but it's useful to start with a thing that is not a conversion unit. So let's take a look at some of these numbers and see if they're conversion units or not. First off, I have 2.5 molar. Now that might not look like a conversion unit, but remember molar is indeed a conversion unit. It has 2 units in it. It's moles per liter. So what this 2.5 molar really means is 2.5 moles of HCl per 1 liter of the solution, right? You see that's 2 units. That's a conversion unit. Next up is 58 milliliters. So that is not a conversion unit, and that's probably where I want to start because it's just 1 unit. It's just milliliters. And then finally, I have 1 molar calcium hydroxide. Again, that's a conversion unit. 1.0 moles of calcium hydroxide per 1 liter of solution. And then finally, the last conversion unit that I have comes from my stoichiometric coefficients or my stoichiometric ratios, whatever you want to call it, from my balanced chemical equation. And since I'm comparing HCl to calcium hydroxide, that's the ratio that I have, right? I have 2 HCl is equal to 1 calcium hydroxide. And I may have to use that unit in my conversion. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the thing that's not the conversion unit, which is the 58 milliliters. And then I'm going to put the subject in there as well of the calcium hydroxide. All right, it's important to put the subject in because we have concentrations of both the HCl and the calcium hydroxide. So we need to know which one we're working with. So I'm at milliliters of calcium hydroxide. I think about what other unit I could use here. And I notice that I have something that's talking about calcium hydroxide, right? 1 molar. And then I notice I have a unit of volume, liters of solution. Well, milliliters and liters are both units of volume, so I can get them to talk to one another to cancel one another out. But first I have to change them to be the same unit. So I have milliliters here that can be converted to liters. So 1,000 milliliters into 1 liter. And now I have liters and I'm talking about calcium hydroxide, and I have a unit here that's liters and talking about calcium hydroxide. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. Since liters is on the top here, my 1 liter will go down on the bottom, and my 1.0 moles will go on the top. And so then what can happen there is my liters and liters cancel out, and now I'm at moles of calcium hydroxide, right? So what I've done so far is this step right here. I've used the molarity to get from volume of solution A to moles of A. Next thing what I need to do is compare it to my HCl, right? I'm at compare it to my HCl, right? I'm at moles, so I can use my stoichiometric coefficients to calculate the moles of HCl that I need. So for every 1 calcium hydroxide, I need 2 HCl. And calcium hydroxide go ahead, cancel out. And now I'm at moles of HCl. Well, I could use my molar mass to go to grams of HCl, but that's not what I want. I want milliliters of HCl. So I take a look at what other information I have about the HCl, and I have its concentration, which has a unit of volume in there. So we can go ahead and use that next. So I have moles of HCl on top. So this time I'm going to put 2.5 moles of HCl down on the bottom, and then 1 liter on the top. That way, moles of HCl cancels out with moles of HCl, and now I'm at liters of my HCl. Oops. You cancel this out, and we can put HCl up here. There, just leave it. So I'm at liters of my HCl solution. The next thing that I need to do is convert from liters to milliliters because our question wants milliliters. Whoops. So I'll put 1 liter down on the bottom and convert that to milliliters, 1,000 milliliters in a liter. And then I'll go ahead and do all the calculations. Note how I'm not doing any calculations till I get to the very end of the question and everything is neatly organized. And I end up with 46 milliliters of HCl. So that's how many milliliters of my HCl I need to neutralize that volume of calcium hydroxide. The thing about these types of problems is practice. It looks very easy on the video when somebody else is doing it because they know what the right answer is. They know how to get there. They've been doing this for a while. It's much different story when you do it on your own. So get some practice. And if you can't, if it doesn't come easily to you, stop by office hours, stop by a tutor, get some help, but you need to figure that out ASAP.